When you walk into a company and the executives swear that everything is aligned, where do you look first to find out if they're full of shit?
I talk to the people team and I ask them the reports that have been coming in the last 90 days. Because while employee engagement surveys are great, some employees do still feel that they're not anonymous. That we actually really know who's saying it, so they don't give the real deal. But if you talk to the people business partners, they know everything. And people talk to them like we're in a secret spy society. And they're like, yeah, down at the water cooler, the quote unquote water cooler, because a lot of us are remote, that fucking asshole thought he could give it to me straight and I'm not having it. That like radical honesty that some people don't really understand how that's supposed to work. So people, business partners, you go to them and they'll give you all the dirt and they'll let you know what's happening. And then the first line managers, not middle managers, not the leadership, not the executive, first line managers who are doing all the work with all the people at the bottom of your period. I don't period, not that period, but the pyramid. That's how much I dislike saying pyramid. But periods are real and they can affect you just as bad. But yes, that's who you really want to talk to. They know what's going on. Also, you get coffee with the executive assistants if they had them, or whoever they are, because they know all the dirt, all of it.
They do.
That's where I go.
Yes, get them to spill the tea. I like that you mentioned the first line supervisors. We put so much on those people, and they are like holding all the burden. They have no power. We don't pay them well enough.
Nope.
Yes, first line managers. So Valerie, I would like to hear your take on, do you have something to add to that?
I agree. Basically, a lot of the conversations, if they're not trickling in the room, they'll be trickling outside the room, and having the right connections and who's actually making those decisions or the line of power. That's kind of basically where you get a lot of information that you don't have on paper or on reports, like Raven, you mentioned. So totally agree.
Yeah. Well, and then is there anything from a structural or operational or numbers perspective that we're missing here? Because it's not all about water coolers and tea.
No, but for me, it's interesting because we associate finance to forecasts. And where I get a lot of insight is the forecast conversation itself. So if you really go in a conversation look at it this lens, right? You'll when you listen in, you know what's going on, if it's actually broken or not, and where your information is. So when leadership is disconnected from what is really happening in the business, you feel it. It's like the conversations start, disconnected from reality, and it becomes a negotiation. And it's true. Instead of really answering the purpose of the forecast call is the so what, right? Well, the conversation moves on. How do I make my targets? Or this is my number versus my number. And it dilutes from what should we do as an action? What are the risks? What are our goals? What are we emerging? So if you really listen at the tone and where the conversation goes, for me, that's where I get a lot of the conversation. And from a finance lens is if the story does stop making sense, if you really listen to it, the pipeline will go suddenly on how to close the gap, or the assumptions changes every quarter. So then everything changes and it's not connected. So it becomes finger pointing. So it's kind of super interesting from my point of view. And obviously the matrix, let's not say the matrix, but when, marketing starts only talking about, how they celebrate, they close some leads and, sells the same thing, and things are not tied to what the real goal is margin or revenue. And then finance, we're stuck reconciling three stories. So a lot of it is, if you listen to the tone of the conversation, and if you look at the whole ecosystem, how marketing, go-to-market, all of us were connected, the real stories are being told in the forecast call. So just listen in and you'll see your cues right there.